Hey guys, it's Holly. So a video I've kind of been talking about and putting off for a while now is my LEGO Harry Potter 2021 Summer Wave predictions. Now I went back through the list of set numbers and set prices we had, and I've kind of pieced together and worked around all of my predictions around that to make it as accurate as I think as possible. Now when making this list, I kind of took into account what we're willing to expect. So going by the pattern, we should be getting Deathly Hallows sets this year. I also went back and I looked at what happened last year, and we tend to have gotten a buildable character and we got a set from the Chamber of Secrets, so I did take that into account, as well as stuff we haven't gotten before and stuff that it's been a very long time for. So I feel like I've pieced together a pretty good list, honestly, and let me know your thoughts on all of these sets in the comments below as well, and what do you think of my predictions. Now in order to do this, I'm going to go in order of set number, not necessarily price, which is why they kind of seem a bit out of order. So the first one on my list is set 76386, which is a $20 set, which I have titled The Forest of Dean. Now LEGO seems to really like doing forest sets, specifically Forbidden Forest sets. However, we did get a small Forbidden Forest set back in 2011, so I feel like this time around we would probably get the Forest of Dean, which is where Harry and Hermione are camping. It's the forest where they managed to find the sort of Gryffindor in a frozen lake, so I feel like that's kind of the place to do it. I can imagine them doing a little tent build and maybe a little tree with the lake. I doubt they would put the sort of Gryffindor piece in such a cheap set, since it was a CMF piece and usually those are quite exclusive. Fingers crossed though it does pop up, even though it's going to make Grip Hook a bit less desirable. I would honestly love to see it pop back up because it is such a good looking sword. Then of course for the figures you would get Harry, Ron and Hermione, and an ideal world maybe you'd only get Harry and Ron and you'd get the Doe Patronus instead of the Stag, which we already have. That would be pretty cool, but I feel like that would kind of be pushing the budget, so to me I can see more so a tree, a little lake and a tent with those three figures. Maybe the sort of Gryffindor. It would be really cool to get some sort of locket piece, whether that be sort of like the medal that we have and then just change it to be a locket. I'm not entirely sure, but I would love to see that pop up rather than just have it printed on characters' torsos. The next one I have written down is 76387, which is a $40 set and would be the Hogwarts Courtyard, where majority of the Battle for Hogwarts takes place. Now in 2011 we did get a Battle for Hogwarts set, yet it didn't really have a battle. It was more just two Hogwarts towers and a bridge, and then had a few of the characters fighting in the Battle for Hogwarts. For some reason Harry was in his uniform. I don't know, honestly. Now for this one, I imagine it would be sort of just like a really open courtyard, maybe with a small tower. I'm not too sure how it would fit into the existing Hogwarts, or if they would do that, because, you know, the courtyard kind of sits in front of the Great Hall, so I feel like that's not really a method. Maybe it's a building that you just attach to the side of one of the buildings. I feel like that would be a bit more realistic and kind of add it to that interlocking modular Hogwarts style of thing. In terms of the minifigures, the ones I have written down are Harry, Voldemort, Hermione, Neville and Narcissa, and I definitely wanted to have Neville and Narcissa in there. They would probably be exclusive minifigures. Neville would be a kind of re-update and revamp of that one from 2011. I imagine it would have the same face as the one in the Astronomy Tower, a very similar torso print, probably just plain black legs, and then the same short hair piece he had in 2011. Narcissa Malfoy, I would love to see a new molded hair piece, ideally, fingers crossed, and I would love to see a printed skirt piece as well. Not necessarily printing on the back for her, but definitely printing on the front, which notoriously Molly Weasley was missing. Face-wise, please just give us a new face. Please don't reuse one. That would be absolutely amazing. If she did have to reuse one, I'd probably say do something in line with like the Wonder Woman face that she has, just, you know, without the tiara printing type of thing. Voldemort would be very similar to the CMF one, and then Harry would be in his Battle for Hogwarts clothes, which honestly they could probably reuse a lot of times. Same goes for Hermione. It would be very similar to the Dimensions one, just I imagine with the Wonder Woman hairpiece that she usually uses, probably honestly in that color, as her head did get lighter in the Deathly Hallows, otherwise just regular reddish brown. Now I imagine for the most part it would just be like a display, kind of like playset doll's house type of thing. Maybe have a few play features of things exploding, similar to like the Minecraft sets do with the TNT. Next up is 76388, and that is an $80 set. Now for this one it was kind of a bit trickier. Honestly, I was tossing up between the Lovegood House and the Ministry of Magic, and to me, I feel like a bigger part of the movies and one that is a lot more interesting would be the Ministry of Magic, which we've never gotten in LEGO before. Now for this one, of course, you would have Harry, Ron, and Hermione all disguised. Now for this, I kind of think of it like Mad-Eye Moody and Barty Crouch Jr. with the double-sided head and the two hair pieces rather than separate figures. That's personally how I would do it. So you'd have one with like a unique face print that we haven't seen before, and the other side with their disguise on, then just swap out the hair pieces in their outfits. Firstly, in the set, I would love to see Corbin Yaxley because he was such like a big part of this sequence, I feel like. I mean, after all, he's the one who grabs onto Ron in the Floo Powder Network. He also interacts with Albert Runcorn. Well, I mean, technically Harry, but he was disguised as Albert Runcorn, so I feel like that would be really cool. And for this figure, I would bring back the hairpiece used for Joshua Gibbs and Philip Swift from Pirates of the Caribbean and recolor it in blonde. You could probably use Lucius Malfoy's head, honestly, if they didn't use it for Lucius Malfoy. I think that would have been a really great option. Then of course you'd have like the coattails piece and a unique torso. That's how I would do him. And the final minifigure I want to see is Pierce Thickness, and please don't come after me for saying that name wrong. I've never been able to pronounce it. In fact, I don't even ever think I've heard it spoken about. Now I would personally put him in the set even though he isn't really in this sequence too much, mainly because he would be the current Minister for Magic at this point of time in the movie, and for this I would use Lucius Malfoy / Dumbledore's old hair, or even the centaur hairpiece I feel like would work really well. Then same thing, coattails, exclusive torso, and then hopefully a new face, please. Now in terms of a build, I feel like you would have a kind of a less graphic version of the fountain type of thing, less minifigure muggles trying to hold it up, probably just like a few arms lifting it up with their heads in grey. That would be really cool. And then a fountain build, a little Floo Network fireplace as well with kind of like the curving thing heading up would be really cool. And then maybe like a facade of one of the red buildings from the ministry, and I think that would be about it. You wouldn't really do the entire thing because at the end of the day this is only an $80 set. Also with the Floo Network fireplace, I would have like a play feature similarly to the burrow and to like the old burrow where you like flick it backwards. That would be really cool where like the flames change color. Next up is 76389, which is a $130 set, and for this one I've had to give it to Gringotts. Now Gringotts hands down was going to go somewhere on this list. Finding what number and price point to put it at though was the hardest thing. So what I did to kind of get to this conclusion was take Diagon Alley, which is a $400 US set. Then you get 4 buildings in that, so I divided it by 4, that giving us $100 US per little modular building. Gringotts would need to be on a base plate firstly so that it matches with the rest of Diagon Alley. Secondly, it needs to be a bit taller than the rest of them, which I think is where majority of that $30 price point is kind of going to come from. The interior would have to be pretty detailed, and ideally I would love to see a dragon, but I feel like for that price point the dragon's going to have to come separately. I don't think they'd include it in the same set as much as I would love to see that. Unlike Diagon Alley as well, I feel like Gringotts is going to have some more play features. I feel like you would need some sort of safe inside. You might also need like the little hallway where they walk down that is kind of replicated in Orlando. That would be amazing. I would love to see some really cool goblin minifigures similarly to Grip Hook, but of other characters as well. Speaking of figures, the first one I would have to do is Grip Hook, of course. He's such a big part of this scene. The other one is that one goblin that they all talk to who thinks that they're imposters. You'd also have to have Harry and probably Ron and Hermione as well. And Hermione would be the same deal as the Ministry set and have a dual-sided face to be Bellatrix, and same thing with Ron and his Death Eater. Then because it is such a high price point, I'd probably throw in another random goblin just to kind of man the desk type of thing. Unlike the original though, I would rather have like that kind of dome top that Gringotts has. Besides that, I wouldn't really change too much of the styling of the architecture compared to the original because I think they did a really good job with that. But 100% Gringotts has to be coming out, even if it's not this price point. One of them has to be it. So those 4 sets I think are going to be the main summer wave that aren't retail exclusive. So now we're moving on to set 76390, which is a $40 set. And for this one, it was kind of hard. This is one of the ones I left for the last minute. Now, judging by what happened last year and kind of going back and doing Diagon Alley primarily from the Chamber of Secrets and also having Privet Drive from the Chamber of Secrets, I have a gut feeling that they're going to go back and do some more sets from both the Prisoner of Azkaban and the Goblet of Fire. Fire. Now with the Goblet of Fire, you got majority expensive sets. You had the Clock Tower and you had the Hungarian Horntail, so I feel like a $40 set kind of matches up. I mean, not to mention the Rise of Voldemort and the Beauxbatons carriage, like they had a lot of stuff from that movie. So for me, there is one big set from the Goblet of Fire that is missing, and I know a lot of you guys agree, and surprisingly, not the Dumbstruck ship. That would be at a much higher price point. So to me, a $40 set screams to me the Black Lake. Now I've called it the Black Lake rather than the Second Task because I feel like the Second Task is just kind of a bit boring sounding, and the original title of the original set was Rescue the Mer People or Rescue of the Mer People, so I feel like the Black Lake really works. It would kind of be like Black Lake Tri-Wizard Challenge like the Hungarian Horntail had. Now for this one, I imagine it just to be some sort of like stationary build that kind of doesn't have too much to it. It would just have that giant archway that all of the characters are floating behind. You would have some sort of evil mermaid, Gabrielle Delacroix, Hermione, Victor Crumb, and Harry. Is 5 too much for a $40 set? Probably. So for this, all of those characters will be hung up on like this sort of build with a chain attached to them. I don't know how exactly that would work. We'd have a lot of use of like those new coral pieces, maybe in some dark colors as well as that kind of teal green. Next up, we have our big D2C for the year, which I'm honestly still shocked that we're getting, and that is set 76391, which is going to retail for $250. And for this, my mind went to either Malfoy Manor or Grimmauld Place, and I honestly think because of the nature of what happens at Malfoy Manor, Grimmauld Place is going to be the way to go. Grimmauld Place would be such a good D2C to do because you could then tie it into this year's advent calendar, fingers crossed we get one, and it would be like that little Christmas scene. There's also a lot of rooms you'd be able to do, and because of the nature of Grimmauld Place kind of sliding out, you could try and do a really awesome play feature with that. You'd have an exclusive creature, Order of the Phoenix Sirius Black, probably even Order of the Phoenix Tonks, and do it like that. Harry, of course, maybe another variant of Molly Weasley or Arthur for that matter. I'd personally prefer Arthur. And if you wanted to tie it into the Deathly Hallows as well, you could have Dobby with his little red boots and do some dual molded legs and put Mundungus Fletcher in there, and that'd be really cool. I'd love to see the Sirius Black family tree. I can imagine that being some sort of sticker in a room. That would be amazing. As well as the kitchen and like the really long dining table, and maybe a few of the bedrooms too, just to like kind of add something to it. Now for set 76392 at $60, I honestly think it could be Malfoy Manor. Now, a few years ago, it is said that they were working on a Malfoy Manor set, and there was like full sketches for everything, and then it ended up getting scrapped. So I honestly think they would bring that idea back and kind of modify it a bit. Now, because Malfoy Manor is a pretty violent and dangerous scene, I feel like they wouldn't really do too much of that. For example, we wouldn't have a special arm-printed Hermione, and we wouldn't have a dead Dobby in the set. I imagine we would have a chandelier, but I'm telling you, it's not going to be able to fall, and if it is able to fall, I'll honestly be shocked. It would be really cool to get another variant of Luna and Ollivander in this set, another version of Malfoy as well, maybe another Lucius or Narcissa, either one. Probably wouldn't put Bellatrix in that set, but I guess she's a pretty good character to put in there as well. And of course Harry. I'd probably leave Ron and Hermione out of this one, and I imagine this would kind of just be a facade, kind of like the original Sanctum Sanctorum was, but maybe with a few pillars just to make it look like Malfoy Manor, because it is a very grand and beautiful house. It'll be very dark, lots of black, lots of dark bluish grey, and yeah, that chandelier definitely has to be there. Maybe even put the balcony in at the back as kind of like a little thing. That would be really cool. Think room of requirement, but bigger. For set 76393 at $120, I honestly think it could be the Shrieking Shack. Judging by what they did with Privet Drive last year and kind of going back and doing stuff that they forgot to do for the first few movies or kind of just didn't get around to doing, I feel like the Shrieking Shack is a pretty good guess. It's something that we've only had once so many years ago, and it was a very popular set and is very well loved as well. The Shrieking Shack is such a big thing from The Prisoner of Azkaban. It would kind of be a crime not to do it. Now for this set, it would be very easy, honestly. You could just reuse every single figure we've gotten, and I know a lot of people would be like, oh damn, we're just getting the same figures, but it makes sense. They're very accurate. You could reuse Hagrid's Hut Harry, Hermione, and Ron. You could reuse Expecto Patronum Sirius Black. Maybe give us a new Lupin out of that set, and definitely give us a new Wormtail. That would be really cool. You'd also have like the little Scabbers piece and just this beautiful building, very similar to the original, but I'd probably do it more so like the Burrow, where there's no side build of Honeydukes or a cellar. Like, just do the building on its own. Have a very like grummy, dark, rocky level at the bottom, and then kind of have those really creepy buildings as you head up. Have a little bed build, have a little piano build type of thing. And that's how I would personally do the set. With the bed as well, you could have a play feature where the kind of sides just sling out and then it completely crashes on itself, as that is where Snape kind of breaks into it. I imagine as well you could have some window panes and reuse those Stranger Things newspaper pieces and stick them in that for some extra detail. That would be really cool. Next up we have 76394, which is another $40 set, and kind of judging by what they did with Hedwig this year and how well that sold, I honestly think we could get another version of that and have another version of like an animal. At first I thought maybe it could be Crookshanks, but I honestly feel like Crookshanks isn't too popular of a character. Scabbers would be pretty boring and honestly look really weird. And kind of looking at how and what they've done with the Brickheads, I honestly feel like Buckbeak could be a pretty strong contender. I don't think it's going to be quite in the same scale as Hedwig. It would be a lot shrunken down, but a Buckbeak which like head you can move like up and down or have its wings flap as well, that would be really cool and a really awesome display piece. I guess you wouldn't really be able to have the actual figure of Buckbeak, or maybe you could. I don't really know at that type of price point. I feel like it's a bit pricey. And lastly, we have 76395, which is a $30 set, and I feel like this could be based on the 7 Potters, and for this set I've called it the Trace. Now there has been talks in previous designer interviews that they have been working on Sirius's motorbike for Hagrid. The only problem is they're really struggling to work out how he's supposed to hold onto the handlebars because he is a specialized piece, so I feel like for that they're going to have to create some sort of new mold for him. And considering the 7 Potters is a pretty important part and a really big moment of the first Deathly Hallows film, I feel like they would probably do something on it. Now for this set in particular, the figures I've put down are Bill, Fleur, Harry, and Hagrid. Then in terms of the builds, you would have like the little motorbike and the little sidecar, and maybe just like a facade of like the Privet Drive street, maybe a few lamp posts, maybe a car or something like that. I feel like you really couldn't do the front of Privet Drive, so maybe you do like a garden for Privet Drive, I'm not entirely sure, or maybe one of the neighbors' houses. But I feel like this entire scene would work very well as a small set, and if you do it correctly as well, you miss out on the whole like death and murder part of that sequence, which is something very important for LEGO because they don't really want to highlight that. So those are all of the set numbers and set prices for the summer 2021 wave that we know so far, and those are all of my predictions and guesses. Now there are some other things that I would absolutely love to see LEGO do, but honestly I don't feel like this year is the time to do it, so I've left them off this list. I do really want to do another video where I talk about everything I'd love to see LEGO Harry Potter do, so if you do want to see that, let me know in the comments below, and also let me know what you think could happen and what your predictions are, as well as your thoughts on what I've predicted. And of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time guys, I'll see you later.